So, consciousness is the state of being aware of an experience or an experience of being aware of thinking, being aware of feeling, being aware of your experience itself. And it remains one of the most elusive subjects in science. And despite extensive research, defining consciousness in any concrete sort of terms, it's still a daunting task. It's not just about being awake, it's about the subjective experience of being alive and existing and have a sense of self. Imagine consciousness as a big vast ocean with our thoughts and feelings as the waves that dance upon the surface. Now, me being the psychonaut that I am, I've tried DMT in the past, dimethyltryptamine. They call it the spirit molecule. I've tried it several times. And DMT actually induces an intense impression that seems very otherworldly. Um, Vivid colors, complex geometric patterns, tunnels, encountering entities or beings. And these experiences are so profound that DMT is often considered a gateway to the dimensions of consciousness, right? And it does feel that way. It feels very real, hyper real. And the reason why is when DMT actually enters your brain, it binds the serotonin receptors, particularly the 5-HT2A receptor. This is known to play a significant role in your moods and your perceptions. And this interaction results in altered states of consciousness, and it's often, described as a sense of unity within the universe and a dissolution of the ego. Many feel like it's accessing fundamental reality or a deeper experience of a raw, phenomenal consciousness beyond your thinking, beyond your ego, beyond your, distinctions that you make in everyday life. You kind of access that reality. And in philosophy, we have what we call simples. Simples. In philosophy, a simple is an object that has no proper parts, meaning it cannot be divided into smaller, distinct components. Mereological nihilism is the philosophical view that asserts that only simples exist and that no objects are composed of parts at all. Distinctions, are just artifacts of the mind. We base our language on distinctions, defining things in terms of their opposites or how they relate to observations of the outside world. Consciousness is oftentimes argued as a simple. So some interpretations of like mereological nihilism would suggest that consciousness, including self-consciousness and awareness, can be can be understood that way, like a simple. It is how we conceptualize things that get projected onto what we consider things to actually be. But there's only mental distinctions, but they don't exist objectively as real distinctions. Distinctions are how we make sense of the world as storytellers. Our mind and memories fill in gaps all the time based on prior expectations of how the world should work. And this should is based on our expectations, what we expect to happen based on previous experiences or what we're told or our culture and so on, right? So this brings us to confabulation. Confabulation is a memory error consisting of the production of fabricated, distorted, or misinterpreted memories about oneself or about the world. Now, in its extreme cases, people have a disorder of these people who confabulate present with incorrect memories, ranging from subtle inaccuracies to really surreal fabrications. And it may include confusion or distortions in the temporal framing, like the timing, sequences of duration of certain memories or events that they think happen. In general, They're very confident about their recollections, even when challenged with a contradictory story or evidence to the contrary. For example, we have split brain patients whose hemispheres are disconnected. And they often exhibit confabulation, where they create false explanations for their actions or behaviors to fill in gaps in their understanding. These false explanations are not deliberate, they're not deceptive, they're not lies. They just arise from the disconnected hemispheres trying to make sense of what they perceive. Like, for example, you've got visual motor confabulation. Like, a split brain patient might be shown a picture of a bell tower in their left visual field that gets processed by the right hemisphere. And when asked to select a matching picture with their left hand, which is controlled by the right hemisphere, when asked why they chose that picture, they might fabricate an explanation like, well, I must have heard a bell ringing on my way into the lab, or I don't know. And despite having no awareness of actually hearing a bell, they just have to come up with this rationalization. Another example, the visual verbal confabulation. So a patient might be shown a picture of a chicken foot in their right visual field, processed by the left, and a picture of a snowy field in their left visual field, processed by the right hemisphere. They might then be asked to choose a word from a list to associate with each picture. And they might say chicken for the chicken foot and shovel for the snow. And when asked why they chose shovel, they might confabulate that it's for cleaning out the chicken coop. And this demonstrates a lack of understanding of the right hemisphere's perception of the snow. Then we've got like motor confabulation. This is when a split brain patient might be shown a word like Texas in their left visual field, processed by the right hemisphere, leading them to draw a cowboy hat with their left hand, which is controlled by the right hemisphere. And if you ask them why they drew like a cowboy hat, the left hemisphere, which is verbal, might confabulate, stating, well, I drew it because I saw Texas, without understanding the connection between the word and the object. Really weird stuff. And, these split brain patients can have everyday confabulations, right? They might confabulate in everyday situations, making up stories to explain actions or decisions they don't fully understand, often involving, again, the left hemisphere trying to explain the actions of the right. And so this opens up a question. Could we as a species be confabulating collectively? Humans as a species are capable of type 1 and type 2 errors. We're capable of confabulating in varying degrees without a diagnosed cognitive impairment at all or brain damage. This means that even individuals without brain damage can fill in memory gaps with inaccurate information, often without even realizing it. This is why memory and the retelling of stories are like really suspect, because memories are sort of dynamic. You know, Memories aren't like this recording device we assume it to be. It's creation on the fly. We're always filling in the gaps. And so, as a culture, our entire interpretation of reality could be based on, misattribution. And history sort of demonstrates how our paradigms shift over time. So, when it comes to the limited mind and its tendency to make distinctions and, definitions in terms of composites, we are more certainly not doing more, you know, truth telling. We could just be doing more storytelling. We take for granted that our labels are reality. You know, our stories about what we observe, we think are what things really are in reality. We're, you know, conflating the map with the territory, so to speak. And you could say, well, when removing one layer of atoms at a time, you know, you still wouldn't have a precise moment when the chair stops being what we label as a chair or stops being useful for sitting on as the function of that chair, right? It's just made up stuff. It's labels. We define it in terms of its function or how it looks or a number of things, right? So these composites really just reduce to those labels and conceptions. But it seems that our minds are different. Our minds are private. No doubt. I can't read your mind. You can't read my mind. You're not experiencing what I experience. There's a disassociation there. There really is a distinction. So, unlike physical reality that has no distinctions, our mind does. Our minds actually do. And our mind is the same tool that we use to make distinctions about the physical world, which is really weird. But could there be counterexamples to what I'm saying? Could telepathy be real? What about moments of unity consciousness that we experience on DMT or through deep meditation or through near death experiences? These reports exist over time in culture and in the millions, and they could very well be a counterexample to the idea that consciousness is a composite thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like the physical world. It's a composite. And the only way we really see it is when we take DMT or when we do a deep meditation and we get into that mental state where we can get beyond the distinctions, or the everyday mind, and we start seeing that actually our mind is one thing. Could that be the case? But even if all that were not the case, and our consciousness is just the arrangement of atoms, right? Then how does that work when our atoms are always changing? We're never made up of the same atoms we were made up from before, yet we still carry on this stream of experience, this I amness, this unity. And if my experience is a composite, unlike the is or is not a composite, then that would make sense as a material thing. Or if your experience is a composite, unlike the physical world of chairs and tables and matter, then does this still make consciousness immaterial? Wouldn't that do the trick? You would see that this is a way to disprove consciousness is material, that it actually is, beyond the physical world, because there is no distinction in the mind. Your mind is separate than my telepathy isn't real. All of these things are just illusions or whatever. So maybe we are just outside of space and time mentally. Kind of weird ideas. Let's put it in a syllogism. Premise one: there are no existing material distinctions objectively. Premise two: local minds or consciousness are distinct. Conclusion: minds are not material. Let me know what you think in the below comments.